So why are we here today? Well, we're here to talk about how leadership and planning are critical to both building and future-proofing your business. And I've got some really good guests here today. Everyone's aware of the challenges we're facing right now, but we don't want to harp on about that because we hear too much about it. We're getting fed that through the media. So we're going to focus on getting the right messages out to our community. With everyone looking at small businesses to lead us out of this climate, I mean, the Prime Minister keeps talking about it, the Treasurer keeps talking about it. We need to have great leaders in our communities to help those small business communities lead us out of this drama. Let's talk about Frank first. We'll start in the middle. Frank Farrugia. Now, Frank has 12 years' experience in the advisory sector and has worked in the Sutherland Shire region for 4 years. He's a senior manager at Jones & Partners, or a chartered accounting firm, who helps business owners and individuals regain, well, let's call it control of the business when they face a financial crisis. And I guess that's probably fairly relevant at the moment. And by looking after these particular clients, they build effective and probably, it's fair to say, tailored strategies to make a fresh start, focus on the future, and sort out all the gremlins that might be sort of trying to crawl over them. They also advise on businesses how they turn around their business, in other words, how they pivot, so turnaround strategy, pivot strategies when it comes to restructuring as well, and also succession when it comes to who do you leave your business to, whether it's going to be a staff, whether you're going to give it to your family, or for that matter, you're going to sell the business at some stage. So Frank's got a lot of experience, he's got a lot of stuff to offer today, particularly when it comes to how do we lead this country out of the financial crisis that we are in as a country by helping our small business owners. Frank, tell us a little bit about what you do, mate.
So with what I do is help basically businesses. They're in a little bit of difficulty. They're not sure where they need to go. They're looking at the numbers. They just don't look right. They just don't sound right there. And they need a solution. And they need somebody who actually can give them the specialist advice that they can't get from anybody. So I'll be introduced to a business, sometimes for individuals as well, who think, well, what do I need to do? And I help them find that solution and give them almost what they can see is going to happen on the other side.
So, I mean, like, for example, let's say I had a business and, the revenues weren't matching the expenses. And a lot of people, by the way, don't even know that when they're in business. They're just running up the expenses, they're hoping the money's going to come in, and they, at some stage the bank taps them on the shoulder and says, look, there's a drama here, come and see us, so you're in overdraft. And then they use their credit cards and they get themselves into all sorts of drama. Yeah. Is that what we're talking about here? Like, do you sit them down and sort of say, okay, let's build a budget, or what do you do in these environments? Is that the sort of client you're talking about?
Yeah, well, that's right. And a lot of times it's at the other end of the spectrum. So they're already started spending more than they've been earning. Yep. And what they've been looking at a lot of times is they're looking at the overall turnover rather than looking at that net profit. So it's about looking, okay, well, where did your money go? Where did it go? And what do we need to do now? Do we need to try to do a whole restructure of the way you do things? And if we can get in there early enough, then we can help prevent the whole insolvency situation where they need to actually formally appoint. And that way, it helps them, find an understanding of, okay, well, where's all their money going? Because a lot of times it comes back down to the planning and the budgets that they should have set in the first place. And when they don't know that turnover or their sales, which you mentioned before, it's because they probably haven't got a plan in place. They haven't set that budget in place where they can just keep going back to make sure they're hitting those targets they previously set.
And you just hit on an important word, targets. I mean, I know lots of people in business who don't even set targets. Because you can't set a target unless you know what your costs are. You can't set a target, once you know your costs, you can't set a target unless you know what margin you need to be charging on top of that. And in order to, that becomes your price. And then in order to charge your price, you've got to know what all your competitors are charging. Because there's no point you saying, well, my costs are 100 and I need to make 20%, so I'll charge 120 when all your competitors charge $100 or $80. You're going to go out of business pretty quick. So this is about planning. And about actually understanding and research and understanding important concepts like your cost of goods sold and understanding, they sound like boring things. They are a little bit boring in some respects once you're on top of them, but right at the beginning they're not boring because they're fundamental to how business works. And if you don't know them, you'll end up in distress. And can I ask you a question? In terms of distress, are you seeing, we're going through a pretty tough period, we're in a recession at the moment, are you seeing more clients reaching out to you, do you think, or do you expect you won't see that until sometime next year? Or has there been any change, any blip?
Look, I'm seeing the clients that have reached out to me, they probably would have reached out to me whether or not this current situation happened, because it's other forces that have caused their distress. I'm seeing that it will be more close to the next year with the government initiatives, with the JobKeeper and other monies that have come in to help businesses. Some have basically continue to trade only because they're getting those incentives, so they haven't stopped. Then there's others which are holding off. They're not really wanting to push that trigger and be the first one basically doing it. But there is a lot of stress out there, a lot of stress, and there's a lot of financial stress with people just not sure what to do. And what I want people more to think about is, it is going to be there in the future. Now's the time to plan for it. You might be doing okay now, but if you're not building up some cash reserves or making a plan of when you need to start paying your mortgage, when you need to start paying your rent again because you've been given a break for 6 months, and the government incentives for your staff payments is going to stop, you're really going to suffer. It's almost going to be like, hey, what do I need to do? Basically.
Don't wait till it's too late.
Yeah. And that prevention is much better than cure with anything. And if you're not getting the right advice now, you're almost going blindfolded into that future. And you can pretty much plan what you're going to be like in 6 months' time. There's going to be some differences. You may not sure what to do, but if you can plan it properly and plan for the worst case scenario, anything better than that, at least you're going to be, you know what you're going to do.
It's interesting, and I'll talk to the other guys in a second, but I just want to make a general comment. In 2018, I chaired the federal government's task force into digitisation of Australia. In other words, small businesses in Australia. That is getting small businesses to use digital means and/or technology to drive their business and to be less reliant upon, I don't think anyone does this today, but a cash book, for example, and ticking off against bank statements, but using digital means to run their businesses in every aspect, not just what you guys are talking about now, like zero accounting or MIB or whatever it is, or budgeting, but also how you merchandise and how you use digital means to market your business more down your territory, Dory. And one of the things that came out of this inquiry was the most trusted advisor. We spent 3 months on this, and like a considerable amount of research, like a lot of research across Australia. The most trusted advisor by a country mile for business owners in Australia is an accountant. So you two are considered to be the most trusted advisor for your clients. Your clients will turn to you every time, not their lawyer, not their mortgage broker, you're not their mum or dad or their brother or sister, not some engineer mate of theirs, but they'll always turn to their accountant for help. And to me, accountants, it's nearly an obligation on you, like an ethical obligation on you, to help small business owners when they're your clients. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, I agree with that. In old times, people are overextending. They're with small businesses. They get in a bit of trouble financially, but they have a bit of personal wealth, so they're able to draw down on their mortgage, increase the credit card limit, put some money back in the business and help them get through the next 6 months, the next 12 months. All of a sudden, they can't do that anymore. They don't have that equity anymore, and it's not as easy as it used to be to get finance either. It's a lot harder to get finance. No one's just giving out money. And if they don't have that turnover in their business or the asset base in their business to get these funds, then they're all of a sudden, well, what am I going to do? And what am I going to do in the future when their tax office, now they're starting the soft approach, they're calling it, to start working out how they're going to get their money back. That's not going to last long. They're going to get harder, and they need to work out what they're going to do. What I'm finding, though, is the businesses that I'm seeing that have basically an option on the other end where there's going to be basically a good side on the other end, they have those plans in place and have those plans and have been sticking to them. And there's been these external forces, which are the what COVID basically has caused them, which was unpredictable. You wouldn't have predicted this 12 months ago, but they have had to adjust. They've had to adjust, but they'll come out on the other side of it.
I think businesses today must plan for 10% growth, but maybe also 10% reduction. Maybe you've got to have a discussion with your accountant or your accounting department. In your case, Dory, the what if conversations from now on. So we do a budget, but everyone does budgets. We're just assuming 10% growth or 3% growth or 5% growth. Now, but why don't we just do another one as well that assumes 10% reduction?
Well, no one's done a what if for what just happened.
Totally, and I think we need to do that now. Or maybe you go to your accountant with your budget, your optimistic one, and let's get a worst case analysis or a worst case analysis by you guys. And I just think you need to do it. And I mean, you might only need to spend a few hours with them, but just get someone to have a look at this and do a reasonableness check on it. Because you and me, like I don't know about you, but I'm always going, yeah, we're right, 5% growth, no drama, we'll get market growth. Yeah, but what I didn't say is that the whole market's going to go backwards. I just assumed market growth for the last 5 years.
And you'll get a piece of it.
And I back myself to be grow as well as everybody else. That's fair. That's a pretty typical entrepreneur, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What I didn't think to myself was, oh, hang on, there could be a 10% reduction. Well, what I got to do then is I got to back myself that I'm going to be reduced by the same 10%. And then all of a sudden, my margins are very thin in my business. I mean, I have we do 1.2 billion a month, okay? But my margin is a basis point here and there, right? So we turn over 250 million, but we pay a lot of away to the people who work for us.
You've got a fixed cost there, which doesn't.
And there's a fixed cost, correct? So you can get caught with your pants down real fast. Now I'm lucky because I started on this program of reducing my costs like a year and a half ago for another reason, nothing to do with COVID. I had no idea COVID was coming, but and I got myself a good spot. But I was lucky because I started 18 months ago, so it didn't hit me. I was already ready. So our business, we had a record profit this year for June 30, and I banked $10 million. So I'm happy. But it was nothing to do with me being smart. It was just me being reactive to a previous period where I had a shit year. And so I thought, that's it, I'm going to cut my costs. But what I've learned from all this is that I need to sit down and make sure that someone does a reasonableness check on everything I do. And I think for me, if I have an accounting department, but I think for me, if you're a small business owner, I think outsourcing that function to organisations like yours is pretty critical.
Well, I think so, Mark. It's that if you do that, because we're specialists, we look at numbers.
You've got lots of different people too, not just one person.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here in my room convincing myself, I'm giving myself a pat in the back, you know what I mean? Good on you, mate, it looks good, that's a good budget. Whereas you guys say, that looks like a whole lot of shit. Yeah. What are you doing?
And that doesn't help you in 6 months' time.
Nah.
Makes you feel good today, but in 6 months you go, oh.
I need to hear that now. I think small business owners need to hear it now. That's sort of what today's about. And that's what leadership's about. Leaders are there to lead us through the drama. Not sometimes we can make mistakes and take us into the drama, but you've got to lead ourselves out of the drama too. Not to sit there and get blamed for it. And you guys probably see this all the time. People sit and start blaming themselves.
And that doesn't fix the problem. You need to get on with it and work out what you're going to do from there.
Yeah, and I mean, we do sit around and whinge and complain a bit, and we feel a bit stressed. I get, Dory said he got a bit nervous there for a while there, but a really good leader will at some stage give themselves an uppercut and say, okay, come up with a solution.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's right.
Outside the box, and that's why you got to, it's business.
What can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do to survive right now?
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I was going to say, it is all about the solution. It's easy to complain and sit there and think, oh, poor me, and what am I going to do? But if you really find that solution, that's where it's going to be. And sometimes you need other people to come and give you that uppercut. Like you say, you give yourself an uppercut. Sometimes you actually need somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
Because you're a bit oblivious, and you might be, even if you might be doing a fantastic job, but if you haven't planned for something that you don't know what's going to happen, then that's where you need that someone to say, well, come on, stop dreaming, come bring it back in. Let's even make this even better than what it is now.
I mean, I did say give yourself an uppercut, but you're right, Frank. I mean, sometimes just talking, you trust your accountant. You don't feel like they're judging you. and going to see your accountant or your advisor, your accounting advisor, your financial advisor, just to get them to run a rationality check or a reasonableness check over what it is you're presenting. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the bearer of gloom and doom, but at the same time, it's important. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. It might just give you peace of mind. They might say, you know what, that looks pretty good. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this.